It's Craggy's Connacht Rugby Podcast. We're in TG Carr Studios. Connacht have just defeated the Dragons by 22 points to 20. I'm sure all Connacht fans are just about happy to get the 4 points, but really was a game they should have had 5 points. William and Rob, you just finished the commentary. How are you feeling now? About 10 minutes afterwards, and we've talked to Andy Friend at this stage. We'll hear that in a couple of minutes. But William, now you've had a couple of minutes to think about it. Is it really as bad as it sounds?
I thought it was a disappointing performance. I thought the 4 points is excellent. It should have been 5. It should have been a more comprehensive win. I know Andy was talking about how well that the Dragons played. I would be inclined to look, I'm afraid, at the other side of it, which was, I think, at times Connacht made bad decisions. They let a poor side back in. They had a 10-minute window playing 13 men, and they came out of that with no points.
Right, they conceded 7.
Oh, well, that was with 14. It was after.
No. They were still at 13 when they conceded the intercept.
Well, it's even worse. But look, at this stage of the season, it's all about winning. And they've done that, and they've kept the run going, and they've kept themselves alive in the competition. They've had a lot of good results go around them. Cardiff losing at home tonight to Ulster. Edinburgh getting thrashed by Leinster. The Sharks losing today in a game that could have... the Stormers just fell apart for the last 10 minutes of that game. I was quite animated in front of the TV driving them on, and they just about held on. They've got 3 weeks to the next game. It's a very funny part of the season, this stopping and starting. But plenty of opportunities to fix some of the issues from tonight. Losing Jack Carty, yes, major problem. Half an hour before kickoff, obviously decided he wasn't ready to go. Then you bring in David Hawkshaw, who hasn't played since January the 1st. And I thought he did fine at out half. Missed one kick off the tee, but generally had a pretty good game. And I think
it was November he was actually 10 when he started at 10 the last time, and it took him about 15 minutes to get up to the speed of the game because all his support runners were running past him. they were flying, and he was still trying to figure out what he was doing.
Yeah, and that's understandable. Paul Boyle will be maybe a little disappointed he didn't get that touchdown. Connacht were held up over the line 3 times. This is something we discuss a lot. You've got to convert those chances. Better teams will not give you as many chances as the Dragons did. But it doesn't say any of that beside the result. There's no asterisk beside it. It simply says Dragons 20, Connacht 22. Connacht have moved on. They're 2 points away from the Sharks. They're still in this. They've 2 home games to come. That's massive. A lot of pressure on Connacht in those games because they're going to need big performances. Edinburgh are a bit iffy at the moment. Cardiff looked a bit iffy tonight. That was a thrashing by Ulster.
It was an absolute hammering, and that wasn't the Ulster A team either. Yeah, Rob, the Bulls losing today to the Lions was another surprise, and they didn't get it. And they didn't get a bonus point either. They got a losing bonus. They got 2 bonus points. Okay, but even so, that still puts them within our realm of possibilities of catching. Everything this season is going Connacht's way.
It's going away, and I don't necessarily think Connacht are producing performances that are fluid and fantastic. I think we can argue all night about whether they're playing well or not, as Andy Friend, and you're going to hear him, said to me, I'll worry about those issues if we lose, but when we win, I'm going to just take the victory against the Dragon side, who are playing their final home game of the season and had a lot to play for.
And we're fully loaded. Every one of their players in the pack had a cap, at least one. Some of them had 30 and 40 caps.
All big positives, and Connacht can back that up, and Connacht can say, absolutely, if we won 4 games, leave us alone. We've got a young team, loads of players coming back. There's absolutely no argument against the fact that Connacht are winning and can bang the drum. But if Connacht, as I said in the Leinster podcast at home about 35 podcasts ago, Connacht can tap themselves on the back all they want, or they can look at what they're looking at and say, there's more. We can be better than this. We can be more fluid. We can be sharper. They are better than the Dragons, even fully loaded, even missing their frontliners, even with all the issues. They proved that tonight because they won. Yay. But don't forget, Rodney Williams, or who was held up over the line? Someone was held over the line in those closing stages. Rodney Williams dropped a pass that he could have got in for a try. They hit the post with a drop goal. They took another stupid drop goal when they were on the front foot. I've never seen a team blow as many chances to win a game as the Dragons did in the closing stages of that game. And for that reason, if you're a Connacht fan sitting at home going, God, that didn't feel great. God, we're not playing well. You're dead right. But at the same time, if you're really, if that feeling lingers into tomorrow, hit the brakes, listen to Andy Friend. Let's listen to Andy Friend, actually. Listen to Andy Friend and kind of, get with the programme here now. They're winning. They're in the playoffs. There's room for improvement. They know that, hopefully. So that's good. Andy, how are you?
I'm well, mate. How are you?
After a fourth win in a row in the United Rugby Championship, you don't make it smooth and easy, but I suppose you don't really have to worry too much about that when the points are in the bag.
No, no, it wasn't easy, mate. It was never going to be easy coming here. There's lots of reasons why we could have and possibly should have lost that game or not won the game, but I'm really proud of the fellas after that performance. I just thought there was a lot of really good rugby played out there. There were some moments there which we'll be kicking ourselves with, where I think we had opportunities, we didn't take them. But to get that win here was vital for our season, and I think just shows the continued growth and belief the boys have within the team at the moment.
Like, is that a narrative that you would have felt beforehand? By that I mean, is that just something that you feel now after the way that game panned out, that you're there's a bit of relief in there as well as that pride?
No, I felt it growing through the course of the season. I actually thought our last couple of weeks of training has been outstanding, which is a real credit to Pete Wilkins and to the coaching group and to the players. So to come here and see that translate to on the whole a really good performance. Some of that rugby in the first 30 minutes, some of the best I reckon we played. There was good discipline with it. There was good defence in it. There was a good kicking game, good chasing game. Set piece was working well for us. They were up for it, mate. They were very up for it. It was a really physical game out there. And I know they went down to 14 men, after, 35 minutes. And I know they went down to 13 men for the last 9 minutes of that first half. But, it doesn't matter. You still, that intercept try, that I thought that was going to be a real turning point, because all of a sudden the crowd got back involved in the game, and so to grind that out and to come back from there when we're down to 20-10, I thought was really, really brave.
When you're playing that way in the first half, let's say the first half an hour, the rugby that you're really happy with, why was there only 10 points on the board, do you think?
Well, we knocked the ball on, or didn't get a ball down over the line. We had another opportunity where we should have got the ball down. So there's two held up, or one held up, or two held up. A couple of knock-ons where we just, that last pass didn't stick. I believe, I remember from the Shane Bolton try early on, Shane Bolton line break early on. Yeah. We should be converting that. We didn't. There was another one where we made good energy, good yards, and we didn't. The intercept pass, we don't need to be playing out the back there. Stay on top. That was the whole message. So that should end up, hopefully for us, being a try, but it wasn't. So I reckon there were at least 4 chances there where we scored 3 tries. You add another 4 to that, there's 7 tries, and all of a sudden it's a different game of football. But that's a credit to Dragons. I thought some of their defence is the best I've seen them defend all year. That meant a lot to them, that game tonight. It's their last home game here. All their Welsh players back, other than Rio Dyer. So they were fully loaded, and they're a good football side, mate. I know they're sitting second bottom, but they're a good football side.
Connacht are obviously a good side now, sitting 8 and with a shot at 7. And what we're saying, without complicating things, 7 should be Champions Cup rugby as well. It's all opened up in a way that you mightn't have been able to forecast maybe a few weeks back, but it makes this run of games that's coming up starting at the end of the month really exciting. Yeah,
it does. It does, Rob. Listen, I don't know what I saw the early results today. I don't know what the other results were. I haven't checked my phone yet, but there's a lot of teams hovering around that middle mark there where we were. So, our message to ourselves was we're in control. If we keep winning, no one can catch us. But we got to keep winning. So that means that victory there tonight was vital for that, and it keeps us on that winning streak. And now we come home. We got Edinburgh in a few weeks' time, and after that we're back to Challenge Cup, and then we've got a Cardiff game, and then we've got a Glasgow game. So 3 games of URC to go, 1 Challenge Cup game to go, and hopefully other games in both competitions. If we get, we keep winning.
I just want to ask you two final questions. One, obviously Jack Carty was named and travelled but didn't start. How concerned should Connacht fans be about his availability towards the end of the month?
I think he's going to be okay, Rob. But I'll tell you what Connacht fans should be. They should be really pleased with the fact that 30 minutes before kickoff, David Hawkshaw gets a tap on the shoulder and says, "Mate, you're going to have to step in at 10." Now that young man hasn't played since New Year's Day, and he steps into 10. And I thought did a great job. Caelan Blade, you're going to have to be the skipper, mate. No worries. Bladey steps up. So, again, a lot of reasons why that could have derailed us before the game, but it didn't. Of course, we'd love to have Jack Carty out there. But weirdly, when it happened, I sort of thought to myself, you know what, this is going to show the mettle of this group even more. And it did do.
Keane Prendergast stepped up as well. We were well impressed. And obviously, it was his tackle at the end to just kind of put a rubber stamp on a really good performance.
Yeah, Prendo, there was another tackle there. I still need to go back and watch the replay of it. I'm pretty sure it was Tommy Faz that, that cut down. Seriously. Some of the desperation in those tackles at the death, I thought it was outstanding, mate. Honestly, Rob, it'll sound really weird, but that's a performance I think that can really now springboard us into these last 3 games and sets us up really well.
And I'll just finish on this then, and I suppose you're going to push back on it, but it just those errors, those little maybe decision-making issues at key points, things that people might be worried about despite the great run, if that creeps up again in these final run of games, obviously it could hurt us more, hurt Connacht more. So with that in mind, what do you say to people who might be concerned that, well, there are signs in these last couple of weeks, maybe the tries conceded against Zebre and some of the errors when they had the extra man here, that would suggest that Connacht, this kind of performance won't be good enough to beat Edinburgh or maybe Cardiff? Yeah,
well, I mean, you win a game of rugby and there's always going to be criticism because people didn't like what you could have done and what you should have done. You lose a game of rugby and I think you probably deserve some of that. Well, we won the game of footy, so it's never going to be perfect. We won the game of rugby at a really tough place to come and win a game of rugby in a game that meant the world to the Dragons out here tonight. Fully loaded team. You know the players who we didn't have. But we've come here and we've done a job. Jack Ainger, I thought, was going great. He gets an independent medical assessment, says he's got an HIA, fails that. So Sammy Ely comes out. He's got to play 50 minutes of rugby. That young fella's done really well, that scrum. There's so many good things to it, Rob. And I'll zone in on the good things, mate. Other people can talk about the negative stuff, but we'll zone in on the good stuff and say we're still very much in the hunt and we've got a couple of weeks to prepare for Edinburgh.
Okay, there was Andy Friend, and I'll quote Williams. William was always talking about the fact that wins solve problems.
That is true.
They have won yet again. And so I'm going to take that and push it back at William. So let's hear how they won the game. Here's some of the highlights of the game and a bit of a wrap straight after the match that we did on Galway Bay FM.
Ball going through the hands of the Dragons. A few decoy runners. Test for Bolton's defending. Bolton makes a good tackle on his opposite number there. But the Dragons have recycled really, really quickly and they're away. Roberts gets a pass off. This is superb stuff. They made 30-40 metres. Gets it out to the winger there, Hewitt. And Hewitt is inside the 22. Advantage, says the referee, I think. Play on. This comes all the way out towards the far side where the forwards and backs are mixing it in. That is the blindside flanker, Aaron Wainwright, who's got in for a wonderful try. Ball comes out to Boyle. He wants to make amends for that missed tackle earlier, and he's certainly done well in an attacking context on occasions. He's doing well to present that ball. Connacht are under pressure. They almost lost it at the breakdown, but somehow wrestle it back. There's a lovely offload from Ainger to Prendergast. Prendergast going for the line. Can he get the touchdown? He can. He was looking for an offload. He realised he was over the line and just touched it down. Brilliant. You should know that this was Connacht 4 metres from the Dragons line, attacking off the side of the breakdown. Oliver picked it up and offloaded just before taking the contact. The Dragons player came in, rose up,
by number 4,
hit him in the head.
On the chin head on number 4. Number 7 Green. I want to see it, please, in the real speed to see if there is any mitigation, because right now I cannot see anyone.
No.
Which is red then.
Which is red, yeah. I can't see.
And the Dragons have just received a yellow card, so they're about to go down to 13 now.
Same.
Correct.
On real speed. I cannot see any.
If anything, that looks worse in real
Leading with
speed.
the shoulder, straight to the chin on number 7 that passes already the ball, so he's quite late.
That's right.
So, for me, it's a red card against number 4.
There you go. Out it comes to Keane Prendergast. He's the try scorer in the first half. Connacht are in the 22. That was a good pass from Blade, good carry from Prendergast. They're 6 metres from the line, but it comes back to Hawkshaw. That's a dangerous pass. It could be intercepted. It was intercepted. The Dragons are going to go all the way down the other end of the field, and they're going to hit Connacht with a huge blow to start the second half. Jared Rosser is their number 14 on the right wing, and they have scored underneath the post. The 13 men of the Dragons have scored. Connacht driving the Dragons back on their own scrum, 5 metres from their line. Connacht are putting huge pressure on that scrum. Could come anywhere. It comes out the back, and Jared Butler picks it up and scores. They've destroyed the Dragons scrum, and Jared Butler has one of the fastest impacts I can ever remember a Connacht player having. And it looks like an opportunity for Connacht to make something of this. Dragons have pulled it down. Connacht are going towards the line. They're nearly over the line. They look like they've scored. Heffernan had the ball all the way towards the line. I think he offloaded it at the last second. We'll confirm the try score in a second. It is a try for Connacht. That's the main point. Connacht have won 22 points to 20, and in all of my years covering Connacht rugby, away wins are always to be savoured, but I've never known one that ends on such an anti-climax. It just doesn't feel like a massive win, yet it is, William.
Yes, 24 points. They really needed 5, but I'll tell you, you'll take it, because that was, at times it was a horror show, at times it wasn't too bad.
They didn't deserve 5 points.
No, they didn't.
They just about deserved the win, and they probably got the win
because of the red card.
Because of the red card, despite the fact that the Dragons disrupted and caused a lot of trouble. Matthew Screech's red card in the first half. 7 minutes to go to half time when he was sent off. But during that period, Connacht had 2 men extra and conceded 7 points without scoring. It was in the second half. Boyle comes off, he had made a couple of errors. On comes Butler. Connacht against the head win the ball in the scrum. Butler scores, and from a 10-point deficit it goes to a 7-point deficit, and that changed the entire game. Connacht then found a way to get ahead. We think we can argue in the end of the world, but I'm getting reports that it was Heffernan who scored it. So that's your third try, and that got Connacht just ahead, 22-20, and it ended up being enough.
Absolutely. There's still a lot to work on. They've got a lot of time to work on it. They'll have to be better again against Edinburgh. They'll certainly have to be better at Cardiff. But 2 home games now sets them up with 2 wins to probably get themselves a guaranteed 8th place, and then an opportunity to maybe get slightly higher up the table and guarantee themselves Champions Cup rugby.
Well, just to spell it out for you folks, Connacht now move into 8th place in the standings. 8th place gets you into the playoffs, and leaving aside all the complications, 7th spot will get you Champions Cup rugby in all likelihood, and that's what they're targeting. 7th for the moment are the Sharks on 41 points. Connacht sit in 8th place on 39 points. Everyone played the same amount of games, 8 wins and 7 defeats. They've gone over the 50% marker now, and as William said, they play Cardiff, who are 5 points below them in the table, in 2 rounds time. But next up are Edinburgh, who are now 7 points below them in the table after they took a big beating by Leinster. It's a strange run. They've beaten the Sharks at home, and understrength Sharks in this competition. Then they beat the Lions and understrength Lions. Then they went to Zebre, who were the worst team in the competition, and they racked up a whole load of tries. They conceded a whole load of tries, and now here against the Dragons, with an extra man in the entire second half, they make a bit of a meal of winning by 22 to 20. I can never remember a 4-game win streak like that, but it's still a win streak.
Well, every one of these games for them has been a cup final, and sometimes you scrape over the line. They've done that in the last 2 games. I think the fact that the next 2 games are at home puts them in a really, really good place. It could set them up to go to Glasgow on the last day of the season with something really to play for and have a go at it. Champions Cup rugby would be great, but the playoff is what's required. That was barely adequate this evening. I suppose it was inevitable that one of these games was going to come down. This was a much harder fought victory than Zebre was in many ways. But they've got to get better at turning over chances and taking their chances. And the other issue I have is decision making. Some of the decision making when they were on top in the first half, particularly these tap and go penalties, I think they were quite lucky today, to be honest with you.
Alan Deegan's been with us as well. One more word from Alan. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm thinking that Williams needed a little bit harsh there on Connacht. Connacht lost their captain just before kick-off. So Jack Carty wasn't on the field. David Hawkshaw was playing his first game since the 1st of January, I think it was. It took a while to get going. And the reality is, Dragons scored a try in the first half from one missed tackle effectively, and their second try was a length of the field interception. Other than that, they didn't really show a whole heck of a lot. Connacht were over the line 3 times and didn't get their tries.
That's the problem, Alan. They were over the line 3 times and they finished up winning by 2 points. That's not good enough.
Part of a trend.
You know,
but they still won. This is they still won. The question is, will they be able to learn from this and sort of be calmer? Yes, William, they won. And
absolutely, they won. But at some stage, if you put in a performance like that against a better side, you won't win. That's my concern. I just thought they got sucked into a bad kicking game. They
lost the kicking game for the most part.
They did.
Until they started using Cathal Ford, at which point we started booming the ball back down the field.
Yeah, but you wonder again, you know, keep the ball in hand. They looked better ball in hand than the Dragons. They were making yards, keep the pressure on, and they didn't. They let the pressure. They kept giving them access points, silly penalties, knock-ons. You know, the Dragons could probably say they had the better chances to win that game at the end, because Connacht really, when they got there, they didn't finish the game out.
Well, that's the first time this season that we've seen Connacht finish in their own half. Nearly every other game of the season they have finished in the opposition half, whether they were winning or losing, except for today. And that was could have been down to the fact that, you know, the Dragons did have some of their better players available to them for the first time in a long time.
They're not a great side, though, Alan. They're not great. They're not great for a reason. Or they're down the bottom of the table for a reason. Like, fully loaded Dragons does not fill me. I know what Andy Friend's saying, but when I hear fully loaded Dragons, I'm like...
Yeah, but they're at home. They're at home.
The phrase fully loaded beside the phrase Dragons doesn't really mean anything to me, because the Dragons are not good. And if they want to get good, win some bloody games. This is an easy
They beat Munster earlier on this year.
And they've done nothing since. And I'm sick of it. You know, I wanted to sketch something out for the two of you, right? My vision, the reason why I've been so grumpy all season with this Connacht team is I believe this group of players, when you put Beelan back in there, Hansen back in there, and God forbid, fully fit, fired up, teammate loving, Bundy Aki in there as well, with everyone happy, I think this group of players can do something like this. I think they can win their next 2 games against Edinburgh and Cardiff, but I think they can do something special in Glasgow. Get us into Europe. Get us 7th. I think they can do this. And I even think, and this might sound ridiculous, I think this group of players, with the way we play rugby, the Connacht way of playing rugby, could go somewhere like the Stormers and stun them. They could actually do it. I would not be surprised. Eventually, probably in the round after that, they reach their limit. Ulster, Munster, Leinster, never going to beat them at the moment. Maybe down the line, but not this season. But what I want is, if that team do that, and even if they go down heroically in the Stormers away from home, if they're beaten by Toulon, let's say in the semi-final away from home in the Challenge Cup, like, they are maximising everything. And if there's anyone who's negative about Connacht rugby after that, just go somewhere else. But what I'm afraid of is they're going to slip up possibly against Cardiff, because they're going to make these little errors and they're not going to really drill home. They're not going to pick the best players at the right time. They're not going to make the right changes, because these are the things that have been happening all season. They're going to lose away to Benetton when maybe they don't need to. That's where my fear is. I'm probably negative for that reason, but I think the reason why I'm negative is I think there's huge potential.
Yeah, one of my it itched at me, and you know, I got really annoyed tonight when I saw it. Kieran Marmion is fit, not picked. Came off against the bench against Zebra and finished the game off for us. We're in trouble tonight because Blady's got tired. He's up with Ireland camp. He's doing an awful lot of stuff away from Connacht. He comes back. You can see him visibly tired in the last 15 minutes, but we didn't bring on Colm Riley. Yeah. 2 problems I have with that. One, why aren't you substituting a player who's obviously tired and was making mistakes and was putting us under pressure? 2, what's it saying to Colm Riley?
Yeah, it's a complex one, but you see, he was captain. It's hard. It's a big decision to take your captain off.
We've done it loads of times.
When we're playing better and actually getting the job done. I think that was a squeaky bum job. They got away with it more than... Did the Dragons lose it? Connacht win it?
I think the Dragons blew it, really.
Yeah, it's a bit of a toss of a coin. But that happens, and that's why you want to play sides that have only won 3 games all season, because that's the things they do. Connacht are ahead of that. They're 8 and 7. They've 2 home games to come, and it's still in their destiny. They're not looking now for anybody else to go and get a result. They do need to get ideally 2 bonus point wins, but you would take 9 points out of the possible 10 at home would probably get you there. It mightn't get you into the Champions Cup, but it would get you into 8th. I agree with Rob. I actually think if they finish 8th and play Leinster, who will finish the league top, that might be an impossible step at this stage. But actually, a quarter-final down in Cape Town against what I've seen from the Stormers today, even with their South African players back, it would be different for fans. I know they wouldn't be able to go in the numbers because Dublin's a hell of a lot closer than Cape Town, but it would be something different, and it would be a real challenge for the Stormers because they would be expected to beat this side. And Connacht could go down there, I think, with a decent chance. If they play Leinster, let's bring it on.
And the point is, William, too, like we're talking about 7th place because we're talking about Pete Wilkins coming in, and we all want him to do well, and we all want this new management team to be successful. And you know, they like if they can get Champions Cup rugby in that first season, getting that extra signing or two, just the positivity it's going to bring through the group and the amount it'll bring them all on. So, like, I know I was sketching out this dreamland scenario that might beat the Stormers, and there is a ruthless bottom line here too. Qualify for the Champions Cup, long run goals here. You know, you're building a new stadium. You've said all this, William. You need to be in the Champions Cup and competing. There's a massive opportunity this season to sneak in now out of nowhere when we thought it was dead.
Yeah, it is a huge issue. Connacht have approached the Challenge Cup in a particular way, and it went wrong in the last game. But realistically, the Champions Cup is where it's at. We've got this ridiculous system that it's not a full meritocracy. It will be from next season, as far as I know, because Ireland and apparently South Africa are going to say we're not voting for that again. But if you finish 8th, the chances are you're going to be squeezed out for a Welsh team to come in, which is baloney. It's if there's 8 teams, it's the top 8. Mm-hmm. If you look at it from the IRFU's point of view, if Connacht get into the quarterfinals, you'll have 4 Irish teams, 3 South African and a Scots, and the IRFU will be thrilled that they've got their 4 teams into the quarterfinal of the URC. That's what they're looking for. That's why 8th is so important. Your rugby season doesn't then finish on the 21st of April. Your rugby season goes on into May.
Good point. It's the bottom line, isn't it?
Yeah.
Whatever about Champions Cup, which would be amazing if they get there. That'll be a bonus, really, with the other results that haven't gone our way so far. But yeah, we've got to get top 8.
Well, they have gone away. We have a chance of getting the Champions Cup, which we didn't have.
Yeah, good chance.
It's a pretty bloody good chance at this stage because Sharks have a tough run in.
They could nearly do it without even winning in Glasgow.
Yes, it is possible. It is possible.
Look, if you told us at Christmas, before Christmas, maybe before December, that Connacht will go to Glasgow already in the playoffs with a shot at Champions Cup rugby, we would have been stunned.
Yeah.
They have 2 home games to win. Let's see what they do. But
and it's
one
against
home game to win to start with.
When they're also playing against two teams who play on plastic pitches as well. So their advantage that they've had against other teams, especially the South African teams, is not going to be there for the next 2 games. One of them, you'd expect Edinburgh wouldn't have most of their players back from Scotland.
And the other one will come after Benetton, and
Cardiff.
Maybe they win against Benetton, play Cardiff twice. There's so much more water under the bridge by the time they play Cardiff. Yeah. But it's all about Edinburgh now.
It is. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Edinburgh coach announced he's leaving at the end of the season.
Big defeat today. Everyone loses Leinster, I guess.
Yeah, I suppose. But they've just slipped off the boil. Connacht need to rest up, get their injured players back, get ready to go again, tighten up some of the issues. Andy was very positive this evening. That's what I expect from him. I would suspect when they sit down and do the review on Monday, they're pretty honest. They're a hell of a lot harder on themselves than we are, and they will say, lads, that really wasn't good enough at times. But there's nothing beside that result. There's no little mark that says Connacht didn't play very well at times. It just says Dragons 20, Connacht 22. Let's go.
Winning solves all problems. And I'll just finish on one little definite bright note. Shane Jennings got his first cap today for Connacht, player 947 for Connacht. So great to see more young Connacht players getting their caps.
A lot of our fans who follow us and a lot of our Discord followers have been saying, look, where's Shane Jennings? When are we going to get a chance to see him? He was good in pre-season. We saw him against Sale in Dewberry Park. He was outstanding. So yeah, delighted for him. former Galway hurler as well. He's got loads of sporting ability in him. So yeah, great news. He didn't get to really touch the ball though, I don't think, in those few seconds, but sure, look, it's all good. He got to make some tackles.
Okay, folks, remember, we'll have some more special podcasts coming up for our Patreon listeners. We'll have, there's a really interesting one we're going to have that we recorded when Willie Rowan, Merv Murphy and Eric Elwood spoke in Murty's before Christmas about the famous run in the Challenge Cup in 1997 when they bet Northampton twice. There's some really good stuff in that, and we're going to release that now in the next week or so. I was going to keep it until the Benetton game, but I think I've forgotten there's an extra 2 weeks to 2 weeks more with two of Ireland games. So I'll release that now. But that's for our patrons. You can sign up for £5 a month. Try it out. If you don't like it, we can always stop, the following month. But yeah, please help us. We need to keep this podcast going, so the more help we can get, the better. Okay, and to finish off, here's William with the table after all today's and yesterday's results in the URC.
We start with the results on Friday the 3rd of March. Glasgow 50, Zebra 8. Munster 49, Scarlets 42. And then Saturday the 4th of March. Stormers 29, Sharks 23. Bulls 25, Lions 29. Edinburgh 27, Leinster 47. Ospreys 20, Benetton 21. Dragons 20, Connacht 22. Cardiff 20, Ulster 42. So let's now have a look at the current table. First place are Leinster. They're still out there, 15 played, 15 wins, 71 points. They are 12 points clear of the Stormers in second on 59. Ulster are now third on 54 with a 10-5 record. Glasgow have the same record but are 5 points further back in fourth place on 49. Munster are fifth on 47 with a 9-6 record. The Bulls are 8-7 and have 43 points. The Sharks are 8-7 and have 41 points in seventh. Connacht are eighth in the last quarter-final space. 8 wins, 7 losses, 39 points. Benetton are ninth. They have 8 wins and 7 losses on 38 points. Cardiff Rugby, 7 wins, 8 losses, 34 points. The Lions are 7 and 8 in 11th place on 33. Edinburgh, 5 wins, 10 losses, 32. Ospreys, 4 wins, 9 losses, 2 draws, 30. The Scarlets are 14th with 29 points. The Dragons are 15th with 19 points. And Zebra are bottom, 16th. No wins, 15 losses, 8 bonus points.
Loose, cut it loose. Break out or nothing changes. Sad and confused.